I'm gonna call it, I think beans are the new cauliflower. Hey guys, it's Maddie from Let's Eat Plants, and today we are talking all things beans. That's right, it is bean month, so I wanted to share some tips, tricks, and hacks all about beans, and let's start with the basics. I'm actually curious to know how many of you cook your own beans at home. Let me know in a comment down below, do you usually cook your own beans or do you usually buy them canned? Ever since I got the Instant Pot, I've been cooking beans at home, but I do occasionally still buy canned beans because, let's face it, they are more convenient. Canned beans come already cooked and ready to use, whereas dried beans cannot be used until they're cooked. Cooking beans from scratch will definitely save you money, and of course you don't have to buy all those cans that way, but I can understand it's a bit intimidating if you've never done it before. However, if you are ready to give it a try and cook your own beans at home, here are my tips. Cooking beans at home can be done one of three ways. You can cook them in a pressure cooker, such as the Instant Pot, on the stovetop, or even in the oven. If you're cooking them on the stove, you'll want to soak them first for at least 12 hours. Soaking can also make beans a bit easier to digest, so if you are having trouble with them, you might want to try soaking first. Now here's the tip if your beans are old or you want them to cook faster. Adding a small amount of salt or baking soda to the soaking water will help break down their skins and allow for greater water penetration into the beans' cells. So what that means is you will get a tender, creamier bean once they're cooked, and it will help them cook faster. You can simply use 1 tablespoon of salt or a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda for every 4 cups of soaking water. Now on the flip side, adding an acid will actually cause the cell structure of the legume to remain firm, which of course we don't want. This means you should be careful cooking with acidic ingredients such as tomatoes, vinegar, and citrus, because even after cooking your beans for a long time, they still may not become soft. If you do want to add those ingredients, it's best to do so at the end of the cooking process once the beans are already soft. My last tip for cooking beans is to use a little tiny piece of kombu. You'll probably see me do this in all of my YouTube videos, and that is because it is such an easy addition. Kombu is the name for dried kelp or seaweed, and adding it to your cooking water can make beans more digestible and reduce gas, since kombu contains enzymes that help break down the gas-producing culprit of beans. Another option to making your beans more digestible is to sprout them. Sprouting beans transforms a lot of the starch into a more nutrient-rich food, which increases the amount of folate, iron, and protein. It also helps break down the phytic acid, which prevents nutrient absorption, and some people do find that after sprouting, they're more easily able to digest beans. However, not all beans can be sprouted and eaten without cooking. Adzuki beans, mung beans, and lentils are all okay to eat after sprouting, but even if you are a bit uncomfortable eating them raw or uncooked, sprouting and then cooking them briefly will still yield a better bean since we're reducing some of the phytic acid. However, kidney beans, lima beans, and broad beans should not be eaten raw even after sprouting. For storage of beans that I've bought in a large quantity or in bulk, I do like to use glass jars, not only to get the beans out of plastic, but it also makes it a lot easier to be able to see what I already have. Okay, so once your beans are cooked, they can be stored in the fridge for about 5 or 6 days, or in the freezer for 3 months. I like to freeze beans because I do find it's easier to cook up a big batch, take out whatever I need for the week, and then just freeze the rest. When freezing your beans, just make sure you leave some space for expansion, otherwise your Tupperwares or jars can crack. I usually find about 1 inch is enough space. I also like to freeze beans in ready-to-use portions instead of in one big batch. So for example, if you usually use beans in 2-cup portions, you want to measure out 2 cups into each individual Tupperware and freeze those separately. And that way when you go to defrost them, you're only defrosting what you actually need. Did you know that you can actually use the water that is left over from cooking your beans? This water is called aquafaba. It comes from the Latin words aqua, meaning water, and faba, meaning bean. So aquafaba can be used in so many different ways. It's really amazing to see all the different recipes that utilize it. For starters, I always use aquafaba in my hummus now. It just adds such a nice fluffy creaminess to the texture, and it makes your hummus so smooth and velvety. But aquafaba can also be used as a binder in baking recipes, or even as an egg white substitute in recipes such as waffles or vegan mayonnaise. It can also be whipped into stiff peaks and made into whipped cream, meringues, or even macarons. But if you don't have any aquafaba recipes on hand, you can also pop it into the freezer for later use, and I will also leave some aquafaba recipes in the description box down below. Beans are just so versatile. I'm gonna call it, I think beans are the new cauliflower. I feel like I've just started to scratch the surface on what beans can do. Of course, beans can be made into milk, tofu, they can be made into meat replacements, into burgers, they can even be made into tortillas and pizza crust. But did you know that beans can also be made into frosting, crackers, ice cream, and even bread? I have been dying to try out some of these amazingly unique bean recipes and share the results with you guys. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, make sure you're subscribed so that you don't miss the next few videos. And for now, I will leave you with some of the unique bean recipes I have tried. And with that, let's eat plants, and I will see you guys next time.